Welcome to Tech and Drugs, the podcast where we explore how data and AI are transforming pharma and biotech. I'm your host, Thibault Géoui, scientist, technologist, and lifelong connector of science and data. In each episode, I sit down with the innovators pushing the boundaries of drug R&D to uncover the real impact of AI beyond the buzzwords. Today, we are excited to welcome Frédéric Célerse. He is a research scientist with a passion for pushing the boundaries of innovation in AI-based technologies. With a unique ability to bridge the gap between computational science and practical application, Frédéric thrives on collaborating with interdisciplinary teams to tackle complex problems and deliver real-world impact. With a robust background in machine learning and chemistry, Frédéric specializes in streamlining workflows and designing efficient, size-optimized databases that drive advancement in drug discovery and AI-driven molecular modeling. His commitment to simplifying intricate processes and fostering sustainable growth has led to breakthroughs that merge precision with innovation. More than just a scientist, Frédéric is deeply engaged in every project, actively seeking challenges that redefine what's possible. His relentless curiosity and dedication to interdisciplinary solutions make him a true force in the intersection of science and tech. Frédéric is also very active on LinkedIn, and I encourage you to subscribe to his feed if you want to stay up to date with recent development at the interface of tech and science. Frédéric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Thibault, and thank you for the nice presentation you gave.
How do you define the role of AI in life science? Are we talking about augmented intelligence, machine learning, or something broader?
Nothing is artificial when it implies algorithms and data. It doesn't replace something that we are not able to do, but it's something that pushes our capacity to do something. For example, we use AI to do something in 1 minute that before it would take several days. So that's why it's a tool we combine with our own intelligence to enhance our intelligence. So that's why I like to say it's more like an augmented intelligence. And also notice that this word doesn't come from me, but it comes from a very nice researcher who founded Siri, Luc Julia, who is also working now at University of Toulouse.
What are some notable AI applications that you've seen in drug discovery or molecular dynamics where you had this aha moment?
The ability to use AI in drug discovery or in molecular dynamics, in my way, and as well as in your way, everything is a question of time. In our case, in molecular modeling, when we are using molecular dynamics, but also quantum chemistry, everything is a question of time. Are you ready to pay 1 year, 1.5 years of project, which is tremendous? So are you ready to pay this, or can you find about a surrogate to accelerate this time slot in terms of computational times? This is where AI, in my case, is operating. For instance, a computation can take 2 months to occur with the desired accuracy you need. With AI, if you have the good data, the good training, the good validations, which take around few weeks, you're able after to compute in only few days what it would take in few months.
You said something important, how close it is to what you will do with the alternative. And again, if I use the example of structural biology, it doesn't necessarily work for all structure, like membrane protein that might be a little bit more tricky to approximate with things like AlphaFold. And I might be wrong because of some development of new models, but at least that's what I remember. But in your case, how good is the thing that you can do in a few weeks compared to what will take months or years of calculation? How close does it get?
This is a really interesting point. AI, in our case, aims at mimicking the accuracy of the data used in the training, which means that more accurate is your data, better would be, in theory, the results of your system. So that's why I like to say, take time on your data. What you do with them, how you store them, how you govern them, etc. Because of after it could be reused or combined together. The problem is always, is your data enough good to have the desired accuracy you would like at the end?
Have you observed any shifts in attitude toward AI adoption in life science, especially among researchers or more, let's call them traditionalists? So how is the attitude changing or not changing?
It's not the first time I heard this question. And every time I heard it, I like to answer, how was it when internet arrived? It was more or less the same. At the beginning, we said, what happens with this? The fear is the first feeling we have. We don't know something, we would like to reject it. It's something which happens a lot in industry, but it also happens in the research. The question is why? And it's what I like to say by, okay, if you don't realize what happened with ChatGPT, take a reference as when internet or even YouTube also arrived. How was it at the beginning of YouTube? How was it at the beginning of internet at the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s? This is the thing.
Every technological change or technological shift brings with it some challenges and some skepticism. However, I always find it interesting that we see that maybe even more with scientists, because I always thought about, as a scientist, you're driven by curiosity and you're driven by experimentation. It's not about whether I like it or not, it's something new. So I always wondered, why aren't scientists using a scientific approach when they are evaluating something new? There is this new tool. It's not about liking it or not liking it. It's about having a scientific approach to testing it and see, hey, is this a tool that can help me or not? Is this ready, or will it be ready in some time?
This, it's more general than AI. When something is new, we like when it's documented. So that's why it could take time in research. In the field of molecular dynamics, the main paper arrived in 2007. And after, it started to increase exponentially after 2011. Because when you want to launch a project, you like when it exists.
What are the most exciting AI-driven innovation in drug discovery today?
To be honest, with all the papers, all the posts I read, it's really hard to cite only one because of everything is very interesting. One of the projects I like very well is when you need to screen small molecules. When you know how it's complex to screen the chemical space, how can you be sure that you target in the good direction, for instance? How can you optimize the research? So this is where algorithms or dimensionality reduction for these approaches can work, and how can you also enhance the results and also the time of computations. Companies like Novartis or Merck, for instance, are doing at phase 0 before going into production. And this is how also startups or smaller companies are also integrating it in more specific application for the current market today.
I like this example because, as you said, the chemical space for a drug-like molecule was evaluated at 10 to the power of 60. It's impossible to wrap your hand around such a big number. I read somewhere that if you take all the grain of sand on Earth, it's 10 to the power of 25. How do you explore such a large chemical space, which I don't think that it's even possible to represent it computationally because it's too large?
Exactly. Computationally, we're also limited by the power of exascale. You're limited by the supercalculator, so the center, the high-performance computing power, which is tremendous, but always limited. AI will do nothing if you let it alone. Because of AI, you don't know what a molecule is, but you know what's a molecule. So if you know what's a molecule and you know where to go, you can after use this tool to go faster in the good direction.
What do you think are the main challenge in applying AI to life science, especially in terms of integrating the computational model with a wet lab experiment? Just like you said, combining the best of both worlds and augmenting what you do in the lab with AI models. So how do you see challenges here?
The AI is a tool. It will not replace everything. So when we are managing a multidisciplinary team, you always build your project as collaborations, but also enhancing the communications between the different disciplinaries. So when you work, for instance, with mathematicians, physicians, informaticians, but on the other side, you're working with biologists, chemists, you're at the center and you have to manage your project, as I would like to say in industry, as a project manager finally. But how can you enhance this management? You can use AI to increase your efficiency in coding, in informatics, but also in computing. So this You will integrate pipelines, workflow in that way, but you will let the experts to do it. On the other side, so instead of few weeks, it will take few days. Okay, you can communicate rapidly. How to communicate this? So this is also where AI can help you. So you have results from a specific poll. You have to find the good words to go in the other poll. So this is where large language models, for instance, are very nice to use, how you can communicate very complex results to a very general audience, for instance. Instead of thinking one afternoon or few days about how to do, you can use this augmented intelligence with your brain to prepare how you will present your user story in only a few hours.
It's an interesting topic because I also worked as part of a multidisciplinary team when on one hand we had like the AI team, and then on the other hand we had a medicinal chemist. And often what I observed was that there was a bit of a tension between the teams. For instance, the AI team would compute a list of compounds that we should synthesize, then send it over to the medicinal chemistry team. And often the medicinal chemistry team's first reaction was, I don't like those things because I will never come up with something like that. And then what I will always say is that, of course, you will never come up with something like that because it comes from a model and the model doesn't think, quote unquote, think like you. It's a bit like chess player, when they see some movement from the computer where they say it's crazy. No human will ever do that. So what's your experience, working in multidisciplinary team and trying to get those people who come from different culture, different background, different language to actually work together?
In research, we are working more and more with multidisciplinary teams as topics becomes more and more complex. That's my life, to be honest and direct. I made my PhD at the frontiers of several teams where I needed to manage teams from mathematics, physics, informatics, etc., computational science at the middle, and also biologist, chemist on the right. So, and after in postdoc, it was also the same, but this more in the field of chemistry materials. Everything is in the communications and in the organizations. You have different stakeholders, but I don't think it's a good word in research, but you have the different members, the different poles, and everything is in the communications, in the efficiency. Because of when they know about what they will work and also what they will have to do, it goes really nice in the good direction. For this, on my experience, organizing meetings, but also explaining with a good vision what we need, what we are doing, and what the role will be for each member is the key of the success for very complex projects, especially when you need to take some risk with AI, especially at the beginning, because of now we start to know more and more about AI, but at the beginning, when we know only a few, and when ChatGPT was not here, for instance, it was a bit more complex to deal with.
Compare it to other industries, finance, technology, of course. Coders now, I think, are using tools like ChatGPT or Claude 40 or 50% of the time. So some domains have definitely embraced, and this is really already part of their life for almost the majority of people. How do you view life science in this context?
Life science, as the market is saying, is a very interesting market, but also a market which is really challenging in terms of business. Because of you have a lot of demands, you have also a lot of requests, but you have also a lot of barriers. There is a lot of researchers also who are working in that field because we need to find solutions. AI is designed, especially at the beginning in science, it was designed for materials, but rapidly it shifted into molecules because of it's very well suitable for small molecules and finally for screening. And what we need in life science, especially in drug discovery, I like to cite one number I read, I think it was in October of last year, about the using of AI in industry. In Swiss companies, more generally, 1 company on 2 doesn't trust their data. It was from Oracle. This is typically the problem. So we can laugh about this, but it's the reality on the market. We are doing a lot of communications. We are talking about a lot of things, but we are forgetting about the basics. And this is what I read a lot. And this is why I would like to say research is always mandatory in these topics.
There is this famous paper from Amgen, which is already more than 10 years old, where they looked at oncology studies and I think realized that, what was it, 50 or 60% were not reproducible. And I also worked with a pharma company that, like all pharma, was outsourcing some of their experiment to CROs. And they were telling me that they were, for the very same experiment, for them, it was acceptable to have 50% variation in the results. So like for the same assay, 50% difference from one to the other. And in this case, it's not that they didn't trust. For them, that was a baseline. So they accepted this variability. And I've seen that in so many projects where people not sure if I can include this data. So as you said, this is the foundation for everything we will do afterward with the AI. So of course, AI results will not be good if we feed them with bad data. And everyone is talking about AI today, and I also making the personal mission to talk more and more about data and the importance of having good data and educating people on the importance of good data. But I think that's almost an entire episode that we can do just on the importance of good data. Moving on, when we were discussing before the recording of the show, we were talking about conferences like NeurIPS. So this is something that typically was not on the radar of life scientists, but now there is a lot of talk at conferences like NeurIPS about life science. So can you give your view on how this type of conference is shaping the AI landscape for life science?
I never was at NeurIPS or specific machine learning conferences, but what I can say from the discussions I had, both from industry and from academia, there is two visions. So in one vision, we have the industry who like to share their discoveries, but also the business they can do. It's a place to network very efficiently for companies, but also for people who are seeking for jobs. But on the other side, you have the academia who are used to do this type of conference. It's not new. We have, for instance, in computational chemistry, we have the WATOC, for instance, which is one of the most important conferences. But when we saw NeurIPS, where industry is going with the business approaches, but in academia, we don't have these business approaches. There is a conflict of philosophy. And it's why in this NeurIPS or other conferences, you have so very good presentations, very nice networking, but I think the field of research is not very well represented.
Talking about scientific communication, I agree with you. I think things are changing. So you have new conferences, you have new ways of sharing information, the preprint servers, you have things like LinkedIn, for instance, where a lot of information is shared before it's actually published in the traditional way. What's your view on the current scientific publishing model? And do you think it's a barrier to sharing AI innovation nowadays?
Before, when we did our PhD, when you published one paper in your work, a work that could take 3, 4, even 5 years, depending on the country you're, it was a great success. Now, imagine you publish one paper in your PhD. How the community can see you. And it's something I see during my journeys in associations to help people to their journeys in academia and also going in industry. How they talk to me. Oh, Fred, I published only one paper. I'm not sure to publish one paper. My PhD is broken. I will not succeed. No. What is the aim of a PhD? Learn how to learn. This is the most important. Publishing is something different. We have to remind students, but we have also to remind the other people who are also publishing this, how it works. And this, it's one of the biggest issues we have currently in industry and why people doesn't want after to continue in academia and prefer to go in industry, even if their dream few years before were to go in academia.
I have an example also talking about EPFL. There was this paper that was published that was called ChemCrow. It's a really interesting paper. I think one of the first paper using agentic AI in a chemistry workflow. And it was initially published on arXiv. And from the day it was published on Archive, there was so much discussion about this paper, so it made really a lot of noise. And I think it took almost a year and a half or 2 years to be published in a real paper, so it ended up in Nature. And when it ended up in Nature, I'm like any other scientist. I'd love to have a Nature paper. But it almost didn't matter, because when you think about the role of scientific communication, which is to spread an idea, the idea was already very well known for 2 years. So the fact that it was in Nature was a nice thing that you can put in a frame on your wall because you have a new Nature paper. But I'm not sure what it brought additionally to the ideas that were shared in this paper, because the ideas were already in the community for so long. So to your point, I think there is definitely a need to rethink scientific communication.
Exactly. So this is a very nice example. And ChemCro, I know it a lot because I know the guy who developed also the lab, because it's a lab really close to our lab at EPFL, the lab from Philipp Schwaller. ChemCro is very impressive. The idea behind took also a lot of time and required a lot of collaboration. I know it. I will not explain because I'm not the best for doing it, to be sure. But from what I saw, the idea was revolutionized. But my question in front of this is why it took so long to be published in such a high impact? Because of you're reading some wasted papers of bullshit, to be honest and direct. You're reading a lot of this in the Nature, and such a wonderful paper like that took so long. And I said, what the hell, to be honest? Then it summarized definitively the issue we have.
Moving on, and the last part of this discussion. So what excites you the most about the next decade to come with AI and life science?
What excites me a lot? To see how we will be able to not talk about AI directly. Because of, you say, to be honest, excitation is related to something, but you will be surprised. How could you be surprised with AI? You're talking about AI every day. To be honest, me, okay, I'm interested in. I like to hear from this. I like to talk about it, but I would like to be surprised about something I wouldn't be able to talk you today about. For instance, I don't know, the power of exascale, which allow you to do what AI, for instance, today is not able to do. I would like to say, for instance, treating entire of PDF just to be able to summarize as accurate as possible some things, because of we believe that ChatGPT, Perplexity, or more recently Gemini 2.0, where I saw they are able to treat a lot of PDF, but we don't like to forget that our models are very limited for this. And how can you deal with the accuracy of your answer once again? Because of everything is in the field of predictive with probabilities.
Building on that, so if you had to predict one breakthrough enabled by AI in this field, so what will it be?
To be honest, to predict one breakthrough, I wouldn't be able to answer this. Because of in 2020, the person who didn't work at the Silicon Valley and who would be able to predict what happened in 2022, I would like to meet him. And I think it's this person you should ask this, because of, I think most of the breakthrough with AI is already here. For instance, this year we talk about AI agents. We are talking about the year of agents, the year, etc. But it's already here for me.
Yeah.
So I would like to say one of the most impressive breakthrough I would like to see is the governance of the data. If we're able to use already what we have to increase already what we have, it would be very nice. But we want always AI. The discussion I had with the managers at Oracle at Geneva, they directly said me, Fred, the companies who succeed the best to apply AI in their business models is companies who didn't feed their data to AI, but cleaned and governed their data properly in an efficient and efficiently pipeline way.
I'm talking about this topic all the time, and we need to make, as you said, data governance. I hate this expression, but great again. We need to make it exciting. I think we need to make it exciting, because a lot of people think it's a dry, boring topic. Governance, it's again regulation and processes. But you're right. If we don't do it well, then if we don't have good data, we don't have good predictions. So getting people excited about quality data, about data governance, I think it will be a hard work, but this is, I think, for anyone which is excited about AI, they need to be excited also about good data and data governance. And I think we all have quite a lot of work to do to communicate about this topic. Last question. What kind of advice would you give to a young professional which is entering this space, this AI and interdisciplinary space today?
I will try to summarize my view because of it could be a topic by itself, this question, to be honest. AI influenced a lot the field of education. This is very important to highlight. And the field of education is how we learn. So before to learn something, we need to know by heart the knowledge is. I think especially about programming, coding, but also in biochemistry, you need to know about which type of interactions you have between family of molecules, etc. A lot of things to know by heart. Now today, the game changed. So of course, you always need to see it, but it's not mandatory to know by heart these things. But you need now more and more to be able to find the way on how to find the good information rapidly, and also how to gather together the desired information. So that's why I like to say for young students who like to interact with me through the different associations I'm part of, it's AI is a tool. Try to use it, but don't use it to replace all your process. You know how to learn. Try to use it to accelerate, and try also to manage it as much as possible to find the best balance between learning but also be efficient. AI, and especially Gen AI, is increasing such rapidly that you can't count the number of models raising every day. You go on LinkedIn, more than thousands of posts on AI, Gen AI is doing every day. How can you manage to be informed on the rapid expansion on this field? This is impossible for a human. You have to be organized as a young student. You have to be organized, which means that you have to select which content you would like to follow. You have also to ensure, okay, the strategy I want to learn, how I devote my time to learn, and also which type of content is suitable for my learning. Do I want, for instance, AI in the field of finance, business? Do I want AI more for molecular application? Do I want AI more for HR management? So depending on the content, you're not at the same phase. So you have to select, and you have also to be efficient and not to be everywhere at all the time.
Frédéric, with these last words, we will close our discussion today. So thank you for joining the episode. Good luck with all your projects, and let's continue to talk.
Thank you very much, Thibault, for this interview.